Good afternoon, and thanks so very much for allowing us to come and spend the afternoon with you so you can get to know a little bit about us. My name is Jeannemarie Davis, and I want to tell you a little bit about me, because I know many of you haven't had a chance to talk to me yet. The first thing I want to tell you is I grew up in an Air Force family, and we moved to Arlington when I was in the 5th grade and in my 5th school, so I've learned to adapt to new things very quickly. I went to the University of Virginia and have a degree in mathematics, so I'm very analytical. I love to solve problems, and that's how I approach everything. I'm the mother of 4 daughters, and my 3rd daughter, Cassie, is an Air Force officer. I call her Captain Cassie, and she calls me General Mom, and I think that's just the perfect relationship. My daughters are 24 to 34, so they're all out of the house and self-supporting. I have to say I'm a little frustrated and a little bitter. I have a 34-year-old daughter. I have no grandchildren. I'd like to know how much longer I have to wait. And I like to tell people I raised my daughter to be independent and I was overly successful. So what are you going to do? I have to tell you one of the most heartwarming things and kind of a difficult thing for me to hear came from my daughter who is the Air Force officer. She was home from holiday. She went to UVA. She was in the ROTC program. We were sitting at the dinner table and she said to me, "You know what, Mom? I'm ready to die for my country." Now that's not something a mother wants to hear out of her daughter's voice, but it made me so proud that I had raised my daughters to love this country, to be willing to serve this country, and to be willing to die for this country. That was a very proud moment for me as a mom. After the girls were grown, I was looking for something to do, and so I decided to get involved in the Republican Party and started as a volunteer, became the committee chairwoman for my magisterial district, and then decided I'd run for office. What the heck, I'll give it a try. And in 1997, I was elected to the House of Delegates, where I served for 3 terms for 6 years. I was elected the majority whip by my colleagues in my 3rd term, and I have the distinction of being the only Republican woman in the history of the General Assembly to ever be elected into a top leadership position in either the House or the Senate. After I left the House, I went to the State Senate, where I was the only pro-life and Republican woman. Only one. And needless to say, when those Planned Parenthood bills came, I was the person that they signed up for the job. And I have to tell you, I represented a district that was so Democrat all 10 years that it had a 17-point Democrat generic. I'm the only Republican that's ever been able to win those districts. But I maintained that 100% pro-life voting record, and I know everyone is going to talk about their A+ with this and their A+ with that, but I want to give you 2 organizations that I have a rating with. I have a 0 with the National Organization of Women and a 0 with NARAL. I also, when I was in the House, I was the House member, and Steve Martin was the State Senate member, that carried the legislation that created our first voter ID bill. It was very difficult to get it out, and of course it's been improved upon, and we really hope that photo IDs come out of this session so it can be the best ever. After I left the state, while I was in the Senate, in the 2 years following, I was a partner in a small technology consulting firm, and Governor McDonald asked me when he was elected to serve in his cabinet. So for the past 3 years, I've been serving in Governor McDonald's cabinet, directing the Washington office. So I have been in the front line for the past 3 years, watching this administration at work, and working very hard to push away. I was very proud of the governor when he made the decision not to create the health exchanges in Virginia and to push back against Obamacare. I advised him to do that. I said, "Governor, if the 30 Republican governors, who are 60% of the states, refuse to do this, they won't be able to create an exchange system because they do not have the wherewithal, the personnel, or the dollars to create 30 federal exchanges." So I'm very proud that he made that decision. And that's just an example of the kind of work that I did in his office, pushing back against the federal government's encroachment on states' rights. Whether it was the reauthorization of the Elementary Secondary Education Act, where Democrats wanted us to put Common Core standards in place, dumbing down our education system in Virginia, or whether it was the Workforce Reinvestment and Training Act, where the president wanted to grab for 2/3 of the money that goes to governors so that they can use those dollars in their states in an innovative way to help create jobs for Virginians and for the citizens of all those other states. And that's the kind of work I did in the governor's cabinet. And lastly, I want to tell you there are 2 things in the code that the lieutenant governor is obligated to do. One is to preside over the Senate, And I would wager that any of us, if we have to split a tie vote, we'll vote with our fellow Republicans, and that will be the case the first 2 years of this next Lieutenant Governor's term. But the other obligation is to stand in and become the governor if the governor becomes incapacitated. And the distinction between me and the other 6 fine people who are running is this. I'm the only one who's served in the executive branch. Governor McDonald has us have a cabinet meeting every week. And a cabinet report is written every week. So I understand what every department and agency is doing, how they integrate, and I've run the Washington office. So I understand how the federal government encroaches, the unfunded mandates, and how they are interloping and interacting with each of our departments. I'm the only person running for lieutenant governor who has legislative experience, including leadership, executive branch experience, and that Washington experience. So I can start that job from day one knowing exactly what's going on and what needs to be done. And the last thing I want to talk to you about, how much time do I have left? 1 minute. Ooh, I've talked fast. Is electability. You know, we lost this election because we lost in Northern Virginia. We lost Northern Virginia by 200,000 votes. That was wrong. The Allen did worse. And we lost with women and we lost with ethnics. And the reason I continuously run in the districts I did was because I had that support. I'm proud to say that I have the Hispanic and the Korean and the Vietnamese Northern Virginia communities working on my campaign. We're signing up hundreds of ethnic delegates to come to our convention, to be involved, to be engaged. And I know they'll go back from that convention and they will tell the members of their communities, we have everything in common with the Republican Party. They welcomed us. They agree with us philosophically. That's my goal. That's how I've won. That's how I can win a general election. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to answering your questions.